just want to introduce our next session. That is a conversation between Dr. van der Leek and Mr. Neels Neethling, or Hannes Neethling. So Hannes is a professional architect, and he started his dairy business, a part-time dairy business in 1994. And today it's a full family dairy production business. He is still involved in his architectural business, and his son Niels is full-time part of the dairy business. So, and Niels is also one of the directors of the MPO. So Hannes, we are very fortunate to have you here, and thank you for your time and to participate in this discussion with Martin van der Leek, so that the other students also learn more about what the expectations of a vet is towards, of a dairy farmer is towards a dairy vet. Thank you.
Thanks. I'm privileged to partake.
So, Hannes, can you just give us a brief history of rooikoppies?
Okay, rooikoppies. Okay, we started milking in 94, as you heard, and we started partaking in milk recording in around about 2005. Had a few cows here that we started with, bought it with a farm, about 40 cows. Currently, we're milking almost 500. And yes, that's
so. Tell us about your milk production currently.
Current milk production, we milk between 35, 36 liters per cow per day.
And how are your cows housed?
We're housing about half of them in a cow house, at about 250. The rest are still outside in nature. We're busy building another house for a further 250. So in a couple of months, we should be able to house about 500.
So you're feeding with a TMR.
Yes.
And just share with us the value of silage in your TMR.
Well, I think that's one of the reasons why we're still in business. I think in a Highveld you can't really milk without producing silage, or let silage be a big part of your feeding regime. We've been making good silage for many years, and we did well at the silage competition. Santam and what is I don't know which Plus Media and Santam. So, but that's important to produce good silage, and we try and do that every year. Most of it's dry land, so it varies, but I think we still do a good job normally.
No, for sure, you do an excellent job, and the starch in that silage you value highly.
Yeah, we average about a 30% starch, and pretty good NDS. So yeah, we really put a lot of value on our silage.
So let's switch to diseases and conditions. Which would you think are the top ones that create headaches for you?
Okay, can I just say our involvement
Yes.
with Honest to Put, just as a matter of interest,
Yes,
probably runs from 2000. It could be a good 20 years. Prof. Dirk Lawrence used to come here and do reproduction with the students. I don't know how many students would still know him. He's retired some time ago. And Dr. Inge Marie Petzer have been looking at our other health for many years as well, probably also about 20 years ago. We customers of Honest to Port for many years, and Honest to Port, I would say, are our partners for many years.
Yes, a very valuable opportunity for us. So we take students there as on what I would call routine clinics. And then you're also very kind to host students independently for a week at a time.
Yeah.
So we thank you for that.
Yeah, I think we're getting 2 students next week again.
That is correct. So they here in the school.
Okay.
So they will
wonderful.
be full of bright ideas.
Okay, good.
Let's go
we'll
back
put
then,
them
Hannes,
to
to
good
the
use.
diseases and conditions that give you headaches.
You were talking about diseases and headaches. The one headache we've got is tick-borne diseases. That's Babeose and anaplasmose, Rooiwater and galsiekte are the 2 diseases we have in this area. For many years we've been having Rooiwater or red water, but lately we do sit with galsiekte as well. And it costs us money. It really is something that it doesn't stop. It seems to be a year-round problem nowadays, which it wasn't really. It was only a sort of midsummer thing, but it is almost year-round now, which is a big problem. And the second biggest thing I would say is mastitis still. That's our second biggest problem is handling mastitis.
Lame cows?
Lame cows and those things, it's not nearly as much as a problem as these 2 things. So we do have a few of it. We do have a hoof guy that comes regularly once a month and help with some of those problems. The rest I would think is feed related, and I don't know what else. But that's not nearly as much as a problem as the 2 I've mentioned.
And another disease like pneumonia?
We do. I would put that third. But we've been doing vaccinations, serious vaccinations for the last couple of years. I must say currently, or at this very moment, we do have a bigger incidence. I suppose it's the pretty cold weather we had. The last 2 weeks was probably the coldest we've had in many years. I suppose that's part of the problem, but it's not as big as the other 2. Still not.
So I want to take the discussion now to the technology that you use to detect some of these issues.
Okay, we've got our normal milking, the Laval milking system, which records milk and would show you if there's a drop in milk, and you can keep your finger on the pulse exactly what happens milk-wise. But the bigger help these days is Cow Manager, which is a little ear, something you put on the ear, a little, what would it, bell be in English?
Ear tag.
Yeah, call it ear tag then. Little ear tag, which monitors the feeding or eating, chewing the cud, activity, and the temperature. Temperature we do find is not that accurate, but it gives an indication on the cow's ear. So, and between all those things, the computer would give alarms on cows that don't eat well, or have got a bit of a temperature, or that less activity would also raise an alarm. And then you have to follow up. Obviously, it's not 100% accurate, and it doesn't say exactly what is wrong with a cow. But to have a system that assists you in picking out the problem cows as you go along is absolutely enormous. I've been working with it for a couple of days now that one of the guys wasn't here for a couple of days. So I've been sitting in the hot chair for a while, and I must say that is incredible. It's actually an information overload almost. You just get too much information, and this thing says there's something wrong with the cow, and you don't find anything, and only a day or so later you'll find out what was actually wrong. Yes, it does help a heck of a lot.
So, Hannes, what are your expectations from your veterinarian or veterinarians?
Yeah, I don't know how much vets specialize nowadays. I suppose that's part of the industry, is that they specialize. We've got which I call a gynae vet, which does the reproduction, and that's a regular fortnight visit, doing postpartums, doing womb health, and then the whole reproduction system. So that's an important part, and dairy farming is very much about reproduction. So it's important to keep it up. So that's a very important part of it. As far as diseases are concerned, we know quite a lot of what's happening on the farm, and we probably treat too many things without consulting a vet. But we do need a vet from time to time as far as diseases are concerned, and maybe just to sort of give us direction. It helps to get a vet here from time to time, and just he knows what's happening in the area, and he could forewarn us, and he could assist us with the latest trends and stuff as far as diseases are concerned. But that's we don't use a vet that many hours with that regard. The next problem, okay, the disease thing and the tick disease thing, we do bounce our ideas from time to time, and we need to be on top of the latest technology because of the tick diseases and the treatments. So that's very important to get that sorted out and to be in regular contact. And with mastitis, similarly, we don't have a vet here very often, but we need, from time to time we do samples, which we send to Dr. Inga Marie. It gets analyzed, and we get back what bugs are involved, and that does help us with treatments. So the more one can actually do that, if you could find a system that you can almost on a regular, or not daily basis, but on an ongoing basis, actually have that analyzed and done, that would actually help quite a lot, because from time to, we're not always sure that we're treating with the right medicine and we're doing the right thing, really.
So I think what's worth commenting on is that on many dairies, you can have multiple veterinarians, each specializing or have a specific interest in different areas.
It seems like, yes.
Yeah.
We've got reproduction, definitely one, a disease one, a specific disease one, and then a specific mastitis and other health. Yes, those are the specialists we'd love to.
So who else provides consulting advice to
Who else? Oh, yes. Well, in terms of feeding, the food companies or the guys providing our dairy, let's put it, concentrates, they do an ongoing job evaluating all the materials that we get in, and then doing the right or the correct rations. They do a lot. I would say those are the guys that are really the most work, apart from a vet. And then we've got the genetic consultants doing the genetic, the latest in that field.
And then you can't forget Chris Ferree.
Yeah, that's the general how would one say, sort of pulling everything together, taking our information, just shuffling a bit in a computer and giving you back uh, all the problems you have and all the mistakes you don't want to look at. Yes.
Yes, if I can just explain to the students that Chris is a consulting business. I'm not sure how much of the country's milk he consults for, but I think it's around 25 or 30%. And he takes the data out of the various computer programs, whether it's AFI or Delaval, and they put that through a system that then generates graphs and tables so that you can compare yourself to yourself over time, monitoring, and then you can also do benchmarking with other herds. And you will see, Chris, how often?
Once a month we get a report. And the important thing about that is it's absolute real-time, in-time information. I mean, every month what happens to everybody sort of, okay, we don't get everybody's information. Obviously, it's confidential type information, but you get call it benchmarking. You benchmark about the average and about the best third, and whether that and but the more important thing is it's absolute real time, and he can see trends and he can pick up what happens with everybody, and that does help quite a lot. Yes.
So I ask about all those individuals because how does that all fit together, and then also with the veterinarian?
In the end, the poor dairy farmer has to make sure that he listens to everybody and take their advice, combine it. How does a vet fit in there? They fit in actually everywhere. And I think they are possible. Well, let me put it a different way. I think somebody with a background of a vet would actually be able to fit into any of these roles. And I think a lot of vets are involved in feeding, medicine, and obviously the reproduction and all the rest of it. But as a vet, I think you can specialize in many fields, and there's actually that would give you an advantage over anybody else, trying to be involved in whatever.
Yes, and I mean, like you said, it's a nice combination that you have, because you have your local veterinarian who you can use for emergencies.
Yeah.
Prof. Inga Marie then, who does the parlor.
Yeah.
You have your repro veterinarian, Donnie Nolte, who specializes in that area. You occasionally have myself walking around.
Yes.
and I will say for the students as well, sometimes it'd be quite intimidating to have other people also walking around and saying things, but there's no need to be intimidated. All you have to do is use your powers of observation, and then you can participate in the management of the herd.
It helps, obviously. I'm talking about you, but you've got good background that you had your feet on the ground, so you know pretty much about a dairy, and just that general background and general information. Oh yes, it all adds and it all helps quite a lot. In fact, if you want, if I would say, if I could choose something or do, a vet, I would love to have a vet that's been a dairy farmer or involved in a dairy, but in the farming side of it for a year or two, or even more. It just give that better insight into our problems, and that does help quite a lot. Yes.
Yes, so that's just how valuable that week is to the students who will be there next week.
Yes.
Can I ask you, can you show off a little bit about your reproduction and the role of Donnie there?
Okay, what statistics are we talking about now?
Oh, just give us a general sense.
General sense, I think. Okay, let's get to the Chris Fourie report, because that's where one would compare yourself, and that's what really counts. And I think he's involved. I don't know in how many cattle percentage wise, but I think he's involved in the better dairy farmers, excluding us. Is very involved in the best dairy farmers the country's got. So you do get compared with the best. In his reports, we actually feature as one of the better reproduction herds. Our intercalving period is just under 400 days, which we are happy with. We don't want to get it down to 360 days. It's really not necessary. You know, you find a lot of people start AIing at 54 days, not even 60 days, to get a good average. We've upped our voluntary waiting period to 75 days now, so we don't AI a cow before 75 days. And that's an experiment that we did less than a year ago, or about a year ago. We upped it from 60 days. And we're still managing a 400-day intercalving period, which we're pretty happy with.
So let's brag about Dr. Dani for a second. He starts doing pregnancy exams at how many days?
35?
35 or 32?
Days.
Yeah, but right, very, very small pregnancies. And of course, the goal of that is that you can intervene if the cow is not pregnant.
Yeah. That's the whole idea, that you can start intervening a little earlier, or that you know a little earlier. But I must say, with Cow Manager, giving us the cows on heat and these things, we do pick up. If a cow is not pregnant, we actually pick it up. That's maybe the other piece of information with regard to Dr. Nolter, is we averaging a good 80+% of first what do you call it, the first PDs that cows that we present that are pregnant. So, and sometimes it can be almost a 90%, which is, in my opinion, a measure of how okay or how good you are at
heat detection.
Yeah, how good your heat detection is. And we almost solely, we 95% relying on Cow Manager at this stage. We still have people checking a bit, but we mostly rely on Cow Manager. So technology, without that, you're a lost farmer, really. You're at a loss.
Yeah, so for the students, we're talking about palpation pregnancy rate.
Yeah.
Palpation pregnancy rates over 70 are excellent. No question.
Yeah. Oh, I start moaning if we get down to 70.
Yeah. You haven't spoken about your young stock, your calves in the hutches and the growing heifers. What are the opportunities there for a veterinarian?
Obviously, diseases are a problem, which we had a lot of, but I think we actually are doing fairly okay with our calves now. And what we do find, obviously, if one invests a lot of money and effort in genetics, then you want your own calves and you want them to live, that you can utilize them. And the better you can grow them, the better cows they'll be. That's proven all over the world, that if you can have, no use having good genetics, but you don't grow them up properly. So in that whole process, being small, you've got a few more disease problems, but even later on, in terms of feeding and in terms of growth and just general health, it's important to have a vet just keeping tabs on it.
So let me ask the difficult question. What do you, how do you see the expense of the veterinarians that support you? Are veterinarians expensive, relatively inexpensive? Do you get value for money?
Oh. You know, when you travel legally or legal wise, you go and see an attorney, and they incredibly expensive, and I've never been happy with an attorney or an attorney's fees that I've consulted, which is not the case in terms of vets. I never felt that they're ripping us off. It is a necessary thing, and sometimes we would really cringe at costs, vet costs. But you know, medicine is pretty expensive as well. So I've never had to feel that we've wasted money or that we're paying too much for the vets. They probably bear in mind that they don't charge us what they would in Pretoria, treating a cat or dog or people that have got money for that. I think they're being realistic, and I must say I've never had a grudge that we pay too much. I think it's normally good value for money, and it's worth the investment. Yes.
Yes, I mean we're at a disadvantage because of the hourly fee. But you're right, if you take away medicine, the expenses incurred for veterinary services on a dairy is somewhere around 2%. So it's actually quite low relative to everything else.
Yeah, I can't quote percentages. I haven't really checked that and looked at that, but I can honestly say that I don't ever feel that it is something that I would like to avoid. No, not at all. We love when we don't know. We don't have a problem in getting a vet to sort out the problem and to help us solve it. Yes, no problem.
Yeah, and as a veterinarian, I will say to have clients like you makes our job interesting. And it can be very satisfying noticing things, having input, and especially when you also go read up and provide new information to the dairy.
Yes, very much so. I don't know if you would find dairy farmers that would really be like like a clamp that clamps down and doesn't want information and doesn't want people to see or get good advice. You might find some, but that would be strange. I think you have to be open-minded, and you have to be absolutely welcoming all inputs and critic. I mean, that's part of it.
Elena, are you around still, I hope?
No, yes, I'm still around.
Helena, what I would like to do now is throw it open to the attendees and see if there are any questions.
Okay. Okay, you're welcome to press the raise your hand button, and then you can ask the question to Dr. van der Leek or Neels Neethling. And if you're struggling with the raise your hand, you can pose a question in the chat box.
So there's a question.
Okay, Luke, you can continue.
Good morning, Mr. Neethling. How are you, sir?
I'm fine, thanks.
Good to hear, sir. I just wanted to, sir,
yeah.
With regards to a veterinarian, if he had to be specialized in animal reproduction and not being on an agricultural basis where he's producing himself with a dairy or with sheep and goats, would you be more willing to consult with him because he has both production experience and experience?
Yes, we do. Dairy farming is so specialized that somebody needn't be proved. Yes, let me say this. I think somebody with experience and that has got the right experience it is important. We don't want to be somebody else's trial and error herd. So it must be somebody that knows, but it needn't have specific qualifications or stuff really. But I would really think knowledge and experience is important. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Neethling.
Yeah, I've got a question here. How would, okay, this student said, I would like to ask, how many of your veterinarians go beyond their immediate duties as such as PDs on your farm? And how important is it to you that they do that?
Beyond duty, okay, well, I think it's still part of duty. We get the results or the information, and then after the doctor's done, we sit down and we discuss, and we talk about trends, and he would give his general impression on where things are going and not going, and he would give some advice on what he suggests we should look at and problems that he encountered. With the palpation, you get a little added thing is that we know exactly what the dung looks like, and he would comment on the feeding as well, if we have a feeding problem or not. But it's part of giving good sorry, of giving good advice and giving direction is part of this whole thing. So it's just not just doing the job and run away. We sit and we discuss and we make plans, and we if it's well, we all laugh and we're all glad. And if there's a problem, we tackle it and we decide how we're going to go about it. Next time we'll know whether we've corrected it or not. So yes, it's a fuller service than just doing the job and run. It's an advisory service as well. But I think it's part of the service. It's not necessarily beyond.
So I can add to that, and let's take Dr. Dani. So he's decided that he's going to focus on reproduction, and he pretty much sticks to that and palpates a lot of cows every week. And Hannes just mentioned something really, really interesting. If you think about the person doing the PDs, what else do they see? They see the manure, and they see the changes over time. So that's also very, very valuable information that can then be shared with the dairy. And then you might have other veterinarians that have more of an interest in nutrition. So I think I said it earlier, there's space for all of those on a dairy, and you can focus on certain areas.
Oh,
all
yes.
right.
And there's a lot of vets that are part of the big medicine companies. And obviously, I suppose, doing research and giving us farmers advice on use of products and those sort of things as well.
No, that's a very good point, in that there's not always a good relationship, or one thinks there's going to be a conflict if you have an industry veterinarian on a farm at the same time that you are there as the veterinarian. And that's really not the case. The combination can be incredibly powerful. So don't be intimidated if an industry veterinarian is walking around the farm when you show up for your visit.
Yeah.
Okay, why do you choose TMR over pasture?
In our neck of the woods, in this area, pastures just don't work. We have summer rainfall, and if I look outside now, it is absolute dry and white. There is no way that one can really grow proper pastures. So it is a choice. You don't have much of a choice. If you want to farm in the Highveld or in this area, and not in a grazing area, you've got no choice. You have to provide food in another way, in some other way as grazing. It is true that about 85% of milk is nowadays produced from grazing. It is in a sense, cheaper way of doing it, or more economic way. But at least we are close to the markets. And obviously we've got a different regime. We're looking at 40 litres a cow, whereas the grazing guy is looking at 18 to 20 litres a cow per day.
And do you allow BRC, BSc Agric Animals Science students to do internships or complete voluntary work with you to learn more about dairy farming and management?
We would obviously welcome anybody or everybody. We just have a sensible arrangement, but yes, we're open to suggestions and people and students, no problem. I mean, we share knowledge if we can, as much as we can, and we'd like to gain knowledge as much as we can from whoever can give us some inputs. So yes, we would do so, no problem.
There's also a question of where your farm is. So it's close to Cullinan, but you can give them a closer location description.
Yeah, we just outside Ruyten, actually, 2 kilometers to the east of Ruyten on the Forfar Road. We've got I suppose we've got Rooikoppies Dairy. I think if you look on Google, it is the Rooikoppies Dairy Farm is indicated there. But it's half an hour from almost central Pretoria, or east of Pretoria. Oh, 40 to 50 minutes from Onderstepoort, yes.
Yeah. I want to have you comment quickly, because as veterinarians, we don't always understand it or similar situations. And that's the price of doing your own cropping and harvesting and how that affects the dairy operation.
Hang on, just say that again.
So I was saying for you you're doing your own farming.
Yes.
And that obviously stretches the limits of various employees. Yes. And does have an impact on the dairy portion.
Yes.
And we as veterinarians are not always aware of all those other things going on.
Yes. I've been telling people that the bulk of the dairy farmers in Highveld, or the bulk of the remaining dairy farmers that I have Highveld, are actually pretty big maize farmers. So the dairy is one way of utilizing the produce, but actually that's because they can make a lot of silage and they've got the tractors and implements and that. And we try and minimize doing other things than silage and hay. But we're not necessarily good maize farmers. So it is a problem, very much so. And it does take your focus away from the dairy in summer months. And we very often feel it, that there's split attention, or don't have your full attention on the cows. So yes, it is a problem, but it's unfortunately that's the way it has to be. We've actually run a sort of a separate part of the farm, separate guys and separate management to do the food production.
You're welcome to pose more questions.
See if we get some more. We have a hand up.
Good morning, Dr. van der Leek and Mr. Neethling. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Yes.
Okay, so I have a question relating to veterinarians giving advice to farmers, and I would like your input on it. So we get taught a lot about ideal circumstances and situations where, for instance, resources are available and variables are more controllable. So I think, in my opinion, we tend to give somewhat impractical advice. What are your comments relating to that and helping us understand how to apply our knowledge to the situation on the farm and applying that in a practical manner?
Okay, can I start? I think generally the vets that are involved or that stay involved in dairying are pretty well aware of circumstances and they know pretty well what's going on. I mentioned earlier that ideally one would need a vet that has been in a dairy or working for a dairy, but obviously not really possible. But by involving yourself in a dairy, most of the advice we get, and I'm pretty happy with it, is not pie in the sky stuff. It is really practical and very usable information. I must say, I can't think that I actually got information that are pie in the sky. It's not the feeling I ever get. No. But Dr. Martin, you can.
Yeah, I mean, we discussed it on, when did Gordon Adam talk to us? But both Gordon and Alf Latergan discussed it, in that when you graduate from Onderstepoort, until the time that you would feel proficient on a dairy is probably 2 years. So it does take quite a while. If you're going to be doing dairy work part-time with a mixed practice, you will most likely be restricted to the sick animal work and then, of course, the reproduction. But at any time, you can decide that you want to become a calf person, and then you can sell your services as that. The main thing is there's no shortcut to getting experience. Best way is to work with a practice like Gordon Adam, and they're quite happy to train you in the form of an apprenticeship. So as far as the practicality of things, some people have a natural tendency to be able to look at things from a practical standpoint. And other than that, you're only going to learn it through experience, what works and what didn't work. And of course, what's frustrating, what works on farm A might not work on farm B.
Correct. Yeah, very much so. And it all goes about pretty serious, pretty serious, what is the word? Fynwaarneming is the word in Afrikaans.
Yes.
That always helps.
Powers of observation.
Yeah.
I always tell the students to be Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah.
You don't have to know anything about dairy. You don't have to know anything about feeds, but all you can do is walk around and say, why is that way? Yeah. And just that can be very valuable.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Are there any more questions?
Like experience.
Thanks a lot for the input, and I think the observation one is something I'll definitely have to go have a look at and get more experience with.
Yeah, and don't be shy to ask questions. No question is a stupid question.
Very much so.
Are there any other questions from the attendees? Hannes, do you have anything you'd like to add?
No, not really. I can talk for days, but because it's so interesting, but no, not really. I'm happy with my vets and the vet situation. Wish I could afford a permanent vet here. That would be wonderful.
You just need to add a few more cows.
I'll probably double up or something. But yes.
So since you mentioned that, I can say to the students that what has happened in the past is a dairy will have a full-time vet, and that vet will initially only be involved with the classic veterinary stuff, PDs, sick animals, training employees, and then that veterinarian can evolve and become very involved with something like the nutrition. And they would then train employees who would be doing the bulk of the work, and that allows the veterinarian the time to walk around, look at things, study up on new techniques. So it's interesting, the evolution of a veterinarian in the dairy industry. Hannes, anything else from you?
No, not really.
I would just like to know, Hannes, can the students contact you directly, or do you prefer they're rather working through me?
I don't know how many, with regard to what? Just talking, or
Should they want to visit your farm, or internship or experience, or
maybe a good idea to just keep you guys involved and work it through there. That should probably be the best way of handling it.
Yeah.
The thing that you guys are doing, initiating this, it would be a good thing that you guys maybe
more control.
No, I'd say if they're the veterinary students, they need to work through me.
Okay. There you got it.
Thank you.
All right, Elian, it looks like we don't have any more questions.
Okay, we will take then a break for another 14 minutes, and then we will start our last session. Thank you, Hannes, for your time.
It's a pleasure. Thanks.
Thank you.
For being involved. Thank you, Marlon. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And go well, all of you. Thanks.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.